I might bring you in.
Yeah.
Then you've got to lean in for the kiss as well.
Yeah. Stay tuned.
Just looking into each other's eyes. Will they?
Well, welcome to episode 16 of the Evo podcast, and I'm here with James Taylor, Dickie Meaden, John Barker. How are we doing, guys?
We're all good.
Very well, thank you.
Thank you.
I should probably explain that Stuart Gallagher, who usually hosts this, he's injured his leg, isn't he? I think it's his leg or his foot or something.
Ankle, I think.
Ankle. So he's resting up at home. So get well soon, Stu. But we'll crack on, won't we? So what have we been up to recently? What have you been driving?
I've been driving an older car. We've done in Evo's Icon series. I've gone and driven the original McLaren MP4 12C.
Nice.
And actually, it was the original one because it's the car they called Job 1. It was the first production car that they built intended for customers, but it's kind of lived a weird life because it ended up being used as a development car to cure a few electrical gremlins when the car was launched.
Did it break?
No, it was fine. It was perfectly fine, including the kind of touch swipe door handle, which was kind of infamous for going wrong when the car was new, but handily because the weather rains
if you
constantly.
Can find it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but no, it was great and actually a really impressive car even now, 14 years on. Quite scary to think it was 14 years ago that was released, but still a really, really interesting car. So that's for a feature coming up in the next issue of Evo, which will be out a couple of weeks, I think, after this airs. And the other thing we've been up to, not me personally, but the Evo team have been finalising the Readers Track Days for 2025. So we've got 6 track days coming up, starting in May, ending in September.
Cool. I'll just have a look because the link is here. I can't remember it, but it's trackdays.evo.co.uk if you want to book one of those. And it's 6 track days, isn't it, across the year?
We'll be at Bedford, Goodwood, Brands Hatch and Donington Park.
Cool.
Some evenings, some full days. So
and I guess most of us will be here.
2 full days at Goodwood, isn't it? And the others are evenings, I think.
That's right.
So.
Yeah.
Dickie, what have you been up to?
Most recent thing I've been driving was a Manti GT3 RS 992, which I think is the first car in the UK to have the kit fitted. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's a generous friend of Evo's had the car done, so we borrowed it for a couple of days and just on the road. I'm sure we'll get to drive it again on track, but yeah my God, what a
quite
thing.
An extreme thing.
It's nuts.
Even bigger wing.
Absolutely nuts. Yeah. You can't quite believe what you're driving, and the looks on everyone's faces. They just have this kind of, why is there a racing car driving down
That's
the M1?
That's got to be illegal.
No, it's a wild thing.
It doesn't look real. The photo you sent me of the car, it looks like a caricature of a car. It doesn't look like a real
No, I think it's
machine.
got 20% more downforce than the stock RS, so it's got 1,000 kilos of downforce, I think. But the I don't know how they do it, but because it's a homologated upgrade kit, they have to stay within the stock car's drag, like homologated drag numbers, and
oh really?
So they gain all of that downforce with no drag penalty, which seems like some sort of magic trick.
Has it still got the DRS and stuff on it? Or
yeah, DRS. It's got a much deeper and longer diffuser, so it runs further down the car. It's got some dive planes on the front, bigger splitter at the front. They completely changed the suspension to KWs, but it's still adjustable on the wheel, so all the adjustability in the car is still there, because so the DRS works within the same parameters, so they didn't have to rewrite the software because that would have delayed everything by a year. So yeah, it's an extraordinary thing, but project. Really, really hardcore.
Yeah.
So when will we read about that?
That's in the live issue that we're working on now. So is that 334?
Yeah,
333. Is it?
It'll be on the shelves, I think, a couple of weeks after this episode comes out.
Yeah. So start of April.
Yeah, early April.
Cool. John, what have you been driving?
Bit of old car stuff going on. Just paid the bill for the Capri, the latest one.
Nice. What was that for?
That was for, I went to drive the MST Escort last year, and was quite impressed by their electric power steering, which is adjustable. So I thought that'd be quite good. Yeah. Because I've never been really happy with the sort of cobbled together HPAS that it came with. So I just paid the bill for that. The kit, the MST guys did me a deal on the kit, but then it cost, I don't know, it took weeks to fit.
Oh, I see.
It's not quite, because the Capri isn't quite the same as an Escort.
Oh, so they have to adapt bits and fabricate bits.
Yeah, so the guys at Q-Prep have been busy with that and making it all fit, and it's all fitted.
Have you driven it?
No.
We'll check back next week.
I've driven it just around their yard, and it just it did confirm that it does need power steering, because you can turn it off, and so it does need that. And the other car I've been driving, which is for a future feature, this week at home I've had an Audi Quattro, 20 valve, original car. And it's you look outside, it's like it's turned into the 80s outside, because it's pearlescent white. I've had a lot of stuff sitting outside the house, Aston Martins and McLarens and things. Nobody pays much attention, but the Audi, everybody wanders by and has a good rubberneck at it. Because it's a proper iconic car. White wheels, white bodywork. It's proper 80s.
Old school.
Yeah, drives like the 80s as well.
That's around for
a bit crusty.
You forget how things have moved on. Everything's become more precise and firmer riding, and it's just
less
the way
wind noise, or no wind noise.
Yeah, so it's terrible brakes. I think they might not be the best brakes on any Quattro that there has been, but you sort of take for granted that cars brake well. They have air conditioning. They don't have wind noise. All that sort of thing that you take for granted now.
When did you last drive one before this?
Gosh, well, I'm trying to think.
I don't think I've driven one since we bought one. So 1998, when we started the magazine.
The magazine bought one, not us.
We bought a 20 valve white 20 valve Quattro to drive to the first TT launch, which was in Italy.
And typically last minute stuff. The car was it north?
I think it was Leeds or something like inconveniently north, given that we had to drive 1,000 miles south. So we sent Stu to pick it up, and then sent Stu to drive to Italy in it. So
it's no wonder his ankle is messed up, is it?
We've worn him out.
But it was didn't really. I think it was a special car then. Actually, it wasn't that old then, was it? It was like 10 years old or something then.
Yeah.
But it still had something about it, I think, because it's such an iconic. It's an overused term, but it's the car Audi built its brand on, really, isn't it? Or established the brand as we know it today.
And it's obviously all about four-wheel drive, but did you feel when you were driving it that it actually needs four-wheel drive with the amount of power and performance it has?
It's about 220 horsepower, isn't it? But it's old-style turbo. So most modern turbos, they're all sort of levelled out, aren't they? It's like it's like a supercharger almost these days. But that is sort of fizz bang. Yeah. So you drive it to that. You couldn't drive a front-wheel drive car with that sort of performance.
No, it would just instantly spin the wheels up.
So that's why it needed four-wheel drive, and everybody had to go after Audi had started it. You get some really mundane cars with four-wheel drive, which don't really need it. A good set of winter or all-season tyres these days will take you just about anywhere in this country. It's only in deep snow that you need proper four-wheel drive and proper winter tyres. So that was interesting, because it's sort of a bit of a lead into to what you guys have been up to.
Big four-wheel drive tests, which I think was your idea, Dickie, to get those cars together.
It was, it's something we tend to revisit. I think, when did we do the last one? 2018. So a little while ago. That was much more of a road-based test, and it was right in the depths of winter, so it was kind of to make a virtue of the grotty weather that we get over here and test the cars in those sorts of conditions. But I think this time it seemed a good point to revisit four-wheel drive, because it's changed so much through hybrid powertrains and just the amount of power cars develop now. We're back to where we were in terms of needing all-wheel drive to put all the power down. So and there's various different ways of skinning the cat now. So it was
all kinds of switchable modes and a clever torque vector and stuff.
I think it's rather than just for traction, it's being used as another tool to make the car more agile and kind of define its dynamics, which I think is a big step on from maybe change. I think we wanted to do it to try and see whether we should change our perception of what four-wheel drive means, and whether it's not necessarily the fact that rear-wheel drive is the only route to a pure driving experience.
And to do that we chose 7 really different cars. We wanted to have a real spread of kind of genres. So I guess continuing the Audi theme, we had an RS3. This one was a saloon, but it can be a hatchback as well. That's got the quite clever torque splitter on the rear axle we'll come on to in a bit. At the very top of the tree we had the new Lamborghini Revuelto, a supercar with more than 1,000 horsepower from 3 electric motors and a V12. We had the Porsche 911 Carrera 4, because the 911's been four-wheel drive since the 80s, so it's kind of an established
And that
player.
was GTS, wasn't it? So that was the
hybrid one.
Yeah,
hybrid car.
that's right. So yeah, not driving the wheels, but playing a big part in kind of how that car goes about its business. And then the other sports car in the test was the AMG GT, which used to be about as rear-wheel drive as a sports car gets.
Proper hooligan car, wasn't it?
Yeah, and now it's gone four-wheel drive, but with this switchable system.
Yeah,
to
with
make
a
it wheel drive too.
drift mode. But yeah,
Yeah, that just takes it back to being rear drive, doesn't it?
Yeah.
That's how that works.
Yeah.
And also in that vein, we had the BMW M4 CS, so M Division, one of the first to go with a kind of switchable four-wheel drive, two-wheel drive, and shades in the middle system.
Yeah, because that was a big deal, wasn't it, when the M4 came out with
When
and the M5 before that.
M5, yeah, because it kind of seemed like heresy when they first, and now it seems kind of normal, and going hybrid is now the new controversy for M Division.
Yeah.
And then there were two other cars in the test, both of them at the luxury end. We had the new Bentley Continental GT, also now a hybrid, and the Range Rover SV, which is probably the biggest car we've put into a group test in some
crazy,
time.
wasn't it? Massive.
And we were on track as well.
Yes.
So,
Yes, it was track only, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I think partly because we wanted to play around with the modes, which the previous tests that we did, there was sport mode and DSC off or whatever, but we wanted to try the different drift modes and just explore a Revuelto's performances. Possibly requires
Revuelto around the track.
Requires a track rather than the road. So
I'm quite intrigued about the Range Rover, because I spoke to one of the engineers to find out how it all works, and I was in Finland tyre testing, it was too warm. He was in Idiada in Spain trying to do warm weather testing, it was too cold. But he said that and that car had carbon brakes and carbon wheels.
Yeah, 23-inch carbon wheels, and the calipers were, honest to God,
like 10
like
piston,
that big,
crazy,
aren't they?
Like the spin lids.
Yeah.
So did it do the whole day without having any brake issue?
Yeah. It was fine. I think on the launch, which Stu went to, the launch cars didn't get through brake pads for the whole week or something crazy like that, and it did feel quite resilient. Felt really wrong driving a race.
It's quite unsettling thing.
It smelled very hot when you came into the pits at one point. And
I
sent
pulled
you off
in
for another cool down
James
lap.
was like, that smells hot, go for another lap. But that's a cool thing.
It was impressive, really impressive.
Yeah.
And it can dance as well, can't it?
Yeah, we were shooting a video there as well, so that'll be up on the YouTube channel fairly soon, I think.
Yeah.
But so as a consequence of that, we needed to have a couple of cars in close proximity. And I can just remember following the Range Rover that Yousuf was driving. I can't remember what was I in
Revuelto.
I was in the Revuelto, wasn't I?
Yeah.
And we were letting one another pass and repass and stuff, and just watching this Range Rover come past on three wheels into a corner like a hot hatchback.
Massive hot hatch. Yeah.
Well, what's the point of four-wheel drive if you're not going to use
three-wheel drive at that point?
Then it sort of settles and goes the other way, and then it did a big sort of nice, gentle kind of drift on the way out of the corner. It's a crazy
bizarre
thing.
isn't it? And it hops around and grips up like an old cart, doesn't it? Like a cart with too much grip.
Generates so much grip. It actually hops.
But it must feel like you're in a double-decker bus or something.
It stays really flat as well. Because it's got all the interlinked,
not fully active suspension, but
it can decouple the anti-roll bars and all sorts of things.
Yeah, so it's a bit like the McLaren or the concept of what McLaren developed, but it's got pitch control as well. So it's always remarkably flat, which makes it quite tricky to read.
Yeah.
Because your sort of internal gyro isn't really loading up in the same way.
Exactly.
But
This is interesting because Matt Becker obviously did the Aston.
Yeah.
And now is this his first project for JLR?
No, I think
He's done a few, isn't he?
I mean, he's so senior now, isn't he? He's in a corner office with his feet up, probably.
I'm thinking because controlling the mass is what all of these things are.
Yeah.
Never let the mass get away from you with the car.
Yeah.
So I'm just intrigued if there's more levers to pull on this.
It does rein itself in a little bit, doesn't it?
It does.
If you, certainly for the video, you kind of have to exaggerate your inputs and you kind of give it a bung, and it's like, I'm good, but I'm not that good. I better kind of clamp everything down a bit. So you almost, if you're more gentle with it and drive it out on the power, then it will send the torque back, and it's more of a natural feeling process. Otherwise, it's quite, you either push the front too hard and then it won't send the torque backwards.
Because it's managing that.
Or it just feels all the mass moving
and
too
the
quickly.
ESC can come in and put a stop to things.
But there's a limit to what they can let you. They have to protect you from yourself.
Exactly.
I think,
Like calm down a bit. There's a bit where I was watching the video back the other day. You're following me in the Range Rover and it's bouncing everywhere, and you're like, right, I'm going to overtake the Range Rover before it has a crash. And then you just zoom past.
You see, it's a fascinating thing to watch because it's up here, like you literally pull alongside it in the Lamborghini, like looking up at Yousuf. But it's an extraordinary thing. It's like a supercar tech in a sort of SUV stature. It's a really interesting thing.
We were keen to have it in the test because four-wheel drive, almost the ultimate expression of it, is an SUV, and it's the only one of those cars that could have kept driving up the side of a mountain or something.
And a lot of the tech is the same as the Octa, isn't it? In the Defender, that's got the 60 stuff. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see how that translates into that.
We had another big barge, didn't we? Bentley, 2.4 tons. Which I think surprised us all, didn't it? How you could drive that on the throttle.
I think that feels lighter than the Range Rover, even though it's a little bit heavier. Actually, it's probably because the mass is lower down, but I was surprised how natural it feels and how happy it is to just be driven more like a sports car. But crikey, look at the just pity the tyres. It hides the energy that's going into the tarmac so well, but you think, bloody hell, it's...
I don't fancy paying for new tyres.
No. I recall that when we, back to the 80s again, when we figured Bentley Continental Rs and things at Myra, performance was there. You get the big turbo wound up and down the straight. As soon as you hit the brakes, the warning light would come on. Seek service. The brakes were done after one stop. One stop.
Go through all the pads in one go.
So this is it's amazing how
it's come on a long way.
Yeah, the cars are even heavier, but they survive track use.
I mean, one of the reasons we wanted to include this car was because it's a really good example of how the different active systems talk to each other. So apart from being four-wheel drive, and it can send 100% of the torque to the rear axle alone if it needs to. It's also got an e-diff on the back, and it's got four-wheel steering and
roll control as well, isn't it?
Yeah, active roll control, similar systems to the Porsche Panamera hybrid. So it's all these different kind of literally moving parts that are kind of marshalled by one brain.
And it's being able to, and from a development point of view, it's being able to know what you want and keep focused and
that's the really clever thing, isn't it? It's what's the driver's intention here? And do I need to save them or not?
And then for it to feel natural and not... I don't know how, given it's all noughts and ones, isn't it, really, to try and knit it all together. It's.
I think the Lambo's probably the ultimate expression of that, isn't it? Because there's no connection to the engine driving the back wheels and then the electric front axle. And how that feels natural, and you can feel it working underneath you, but it's never like, oh, it's done something weird there. It's kind of what you put in is what you get.
It's like it reminded me of an R8 actually, because they're like the least all-wheel drive feeling cars, aren't they? Always have been. Like you could drive it and be told you wouldn't know it's four-wheel drive.
That's a real compliment for the Lambo.
And I think, given that their flagship cars have been four-wheel drive since the Diablo, haven't they? And they've always felt really, part of the occasion of them, quite cumbersome and very highly mechanical, and you don't really want to go maybe far enough.
Well, John has a story about doing that, doesn't he, in the Aventador?
Well, we figured the Aventador just down the road, over the road here on the West Circuit with Jethro. You know, the last rising right that brings you back onto the pit straight?
Yeah.
It's quite a difficult corner, and the nose wouldn't tuck in, and we weren't getting the power down. That car back then, it felt very heavy at the back.
Yeah, it's always big pendulum sense.
So trying to get the lap time, I thought, well, I'll just give it a bung on the last go. It's a tucked in and came through the corner. That's not going to work, and just spun and ended up on the grass.
Yeah, they spin
almost at the start.
They spin for a long way, don't they? I spun a Diablo SV at Bruntingthorpe once, and it went on for about a week. And it sort of went slow, fast, because you're at the opposite
like
end.
Like a hammer. If you throw a hammer,
please stop. stop. Please stop.
So this is they've turned the V12 round, haven't they? So
yeah,
that's
spun it round.
more
Gearbox is
central.
off the back, isn't it?
And then the batteries are in the
the batteries
tunnel.
in kind of what would be the transmission tunnel.
So you're keeping more of the mass between
it's
the
really.
axles.
I drove it on the road in Italy, and it felt. I think I said at the time it's however much 600 mil long. It's significantly longer, and it's higher, and it's heavier, but it feels shorter, lower, lighter, more agile. Was so good on the road, and it was so good on the track. Like if you'd switch everything off, then you need to pay it some respect. But remarkably forgiving thing, actually, given what you're attempting to do with it.
And if you keep everything on, it kind of almost senses what you're trying to do with it and how you want to drive it.
Sport mode is pretty good, actually. It allows you to. It's not quite as free as the Ferrari side slip stuff, but you can. The car feels quite free underneath you, and you can drive it out of the corner. It just kind of, you can feel it just holding you back a little bit.
Yeah,
and you can't switch everything off. You have to go through to the most aggressive mode and then off, so you kind of want to mix and match some of the modes. I think
you can't really do that in modern Lambos, can you? That's a big thing with those. So just lock you into a mode. And
but it does make you think, right, okay, do I want to do this? Do I really want to? Okay. And then you sort of wipe your parts and do it. But God,
I recall you went to America and you drove a Corvette. Early days of stability control.
Yeah, I think it was a C5 Z06 or something, I think it was.
And you said that the system knew if you were keeping up with the car and would give you more freedom?
Yeah, it could compare the throttle and steering input and your rate. I think it was, compared to now, it was very crude, but it would kind of adapt a little bit, depending, rather than, there's no steering correction and it's full throttle, or they're going to crash
everything down.
And it seems some of these cars actually have taken that to its current conclusion, which is if you know what you're doing and you're making the right inputs, the car will be smoother and do what you want it to do. Which is
I think the way it's integrated as well, given it's trying to blend the big V12 and the electric motors,
and their torque vectoring at the front as well.
Phase it all and still keep the car feeling quite neutral and more rear biased than it's really.
It's a lot of tuning,
impressive,
isn't it?
super impressive car.
Amazing bit of kit.
And sounds brilliant.
It does.
Inside and out. It still has that kind of Lamborghini occasion, which Ferrari seem to have forgotten how to do lately, don't they?
Yeah.
Do you think it's peak modern supercar? Because it seems like it uses its tech to make it more exciting as well as quicker and more capable.
Yeah, I think I would rather. I think if you drove an Aventador, it would feel like you're driving a 20-year-old car, even though it's actually only just been replaced. So I think, if you wanted to put someone that's never been in any of those sorts of cars before, that would be the one that would give them a lot of the Countach, Diablo,
it still has the drama and the emotion, doesn't it?
Propulsive kind of
wow
energy,
factor,
but then with all this refinement and deft kind of feel, and you can place it, and it's just a really clever car.
At like a basic level, it feels like everything I wished a Lamborghini was like when I was a kid. And I know the Aventador, Murcielago, they weren't actually completely living up to that standard, but this feels like everything's come together, and it's got the drama and the noise, and you're in a crazy cabin and you can drive it really hard at the same time, and it's got all those elements.
I think you can enjoy, like older Lamborghinis it was working it through the gears, and because the gearbox is quite a mechanical thing, there was a pause and it sort of drew another big breath and then lunged off down the road, and then you didn't really feel the need or want to go through a corner particularly quickly, but the Revuelto gives you all of that excitement, and then you can drive it through, you can really enjoy pushing it through the corners as well. So it's a much more complete car, but it doesn't seem to lose any of the
drama
old
and
school kind of what you would want to have out of a V12.
At the other end of the scale, we've got RS3.
Yes.
And you seem to really like that. I saw your PTC in the car.
Yeah, well, it's one of the, I suppose, mechanically interesting ones, because it's got, Audi calls it a torque splitter. There have been similar systems on other cars, but it's not. It's got a normal diff at the front, but at the back it has a kind of sort of T-junction of gears, and then a electronically controlled clutch either side. So it's always, it can't be more than 50-50 split front to rear, but the clever stuff is at the back because it can go 100% either side. It can, and so if you're turning through a right-hander, it'll give the left rear a bit more torque to kind of help steer the car and kind of pivot it through the corner, and vice versa. And if you get into a slide, it can also overspeed the inside wheel to help pull you straight.
Yeah.
But the nice thing for doing a photo and video shoot is it also has a mode they call torque rear, where it's almost their equivalent to a drift mode, I guess.
It's not easy to get into, is it?
Not when I'm doing it. I mean, I'm famously inept at switching off systems in most cars, but it took me about half an hour to manage to switch off all the ESC and
there were like
stability
three
control.
of us having a go at it.
Yeah,
point,
we had to have a
it?
conference, I think, to try and figure it out. But once you have managed to switch everything off, if it's an unusual feeling car, isn't it?
Yeah, I really like that car.
Is it the same as in feel as the hatch that we did?
I think so.
Yeah, because the wheelbase is the same. So yeah, recently we had the hatchback in the super hatch test. This one was the little 3-box saloon body. It looks more normal because unusually the front tyres are wider than the back.
Yeah, it's got that kind of bulldog.
And you don't notice it in the saloon because there's bodywork in a way, but you follow the hatch, it looks like it's crabbing. It looks like the suspension's
wrong
broken
with it.
or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, it feels very similar to the hatch. It's odd, at first it feels a bit skatey at the back, doesn't it? But then you dial into it and it feels almost like a rear-wheel drive car. It's really, really fun.
Yeah, it's a fun thing.
And it's such a smooth, powerful engine. You can...
Yeah, back to the
sustain
Quattro.
Yeah, it sounds better than the... Sounds much better than the Quattro, ironically.
That's weird, isn't it?
Even with all the filters and stuff it has on it now.
Much sweeter, kind of less coarse. I don't know. It's just a really great noise. I think they must have sampled all the rally soundtracks and just tuned it to
Just
that.
honed
greatest hits.
Honed in on the best bits.
And it's more powerful than any. Like it's more.
Thick end of 400 horsepower.
400 horsepower. So what was a Sport Quattro? 350 or something. Group B road car. So
the rally cars had a little bit more, didn't they?
Yeah, I suspect 500 something.
The way Walter was fighting them, they had a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it does feel, I mean, driving all of them, four-wheel drive added something, I think, to every car. It wasn't that you get in the M4 and just go straight to two-wheel drive to have more fun. I found, actually, that car's four-wheel drive sport setting, which is quite rear biased.
Yes. It's great.
I had the most fun in that mode, yeah.
Same with the AMG. That I think the AMG of all the cars, because that's much easier to go into drift mode on the fly, so you can literally go through, do one lap, and then switch it into rear-wheel drive. And it's not undrivable, but it's absurd. You just sat there.
It's too much, isn't it? You're managing all the time.
But four-wheel drive, my God, it was still power out of a corner in a slide, but it's instead of just sitting there, it's going forward so quickly.
It's doing double the speed, isn't it? So you're having even more fun.
Much more satisfying, and gives you a huge sense of corner speed and getting out of the corner. It's mega. But I think we kind of built the test around the M4, didn't we? Or the notion of that X-Drive system giving you everything from complete kind of all-weather security to sort of maximum hoonage, and then something in between. And I think they're still probably the best at that with the drift. And sort of the switchable nature of it. Yeah, I think
so you turn up and down the traction.
You can really sort of dial it in and make the car what you want it to be. But again, it's ridiculous in rear-wheel drive, isn't it?
It's undrivable.
There's no point really.
It's like having casters on the back.
Well, there is a point.
It's called Drift Analyzer, I think.
Exactly. You got a 5-star, didn't you? You got a 5-star.
That was on the original. That's the rear drive one.
Yeah.
But it's the same.
What did that take? Because it seems like I was just getting 3.5 no matter what I did.
So it was.
You need to link corners
into
together.
The chicane, the little chicane on the West Circuit.
Yeah.
Catch it on the way out, flick it the other way, go around that long corner.
Out the gate.
Around the roundabout.
Take fourth.
Through Wellingborough.
Transition into the other right. Take fourth midway through.
You're
and then
kidding.
halfway down the next straight.
And it's like, 4 stars. 4.5.
No, that's 5.
It's 5.
That was 178 yards of oversteer and 2 transitions. That's all it takes.
Right, yeah. Fair enough, yeah. Do you think this is then a turning point for four-wheel drive? Because it's so often been thought of as like something that gives you stability and security rather than fun. But I think all of these cars were more fun actually for being four-wheel drive in a way.
I think it's able to be more nuanced than ever now that all the electronic systems can talk to each other. Because, you cycle back in time and it was a much more sort of fixed, steady state kind of system, wasn't it? And now with all these different levers to pull of rear wheel steering and EDIFs and torque vectoring, and then how you divvy up the torque split, not just front to rear, but to individual corners as well. It's it's probably more flexible than it's ever been, isn't it?
It was interesting in the 911. That's the first of the new gen hybrid cars I've driven, and quite a while since I've driven a Carrera 4, and I loved that car. So really shock horror. Evo loves a 911.
That's the title of this podcast.
But the engine is really impressive, isn't it?
Savage,
it's really quick, like really, really quick and torquey and quite gruff and like a proper older 911.
You fire it up and it sounds like an old air-cooled car almost.
But the way they've always been, well, certainly since 996, I suppose, but I've got more experience with Carrera 4 since then, but it feels so natural.
Yeah, it does.
But again, you're not really aware that it's all-wheel drive.
Because it only brings the fronts in when it needs to, doesn't it? I think there's something like a nominal 5% of the drive always goes to the front wheels, but it's predominantly rear-driven, except it's almost like on-demand.
So it's the least... I mean, it's typical Porsche, isn't it? The hybrid system is only there to make it go quickly and pass emissions. It doesn't bring
it's
any...
It's not got an E-mode or anything.
Compromise, and the all-wheel drive system doesn't bring any compromise because it's not a four-wheel drive system for most of the time, probably with Porsche. But you know, it's I guess we never really have to consider winters here, do we? But I know whenever you go to Europe, if you go to a skiing holiday or something,
there's one with some roof.
You'll still see a 911 with a roof box and skis on it, and you know, then it all makes. Carrera 4 makes sense, but I love that car.
It's really impressive.
I think out of all of them, leaving the Lambo side, that's the one I wanted to just kind of jump in because it gives you so much confidence. And the thing about it is, it doesn't have like a torque rear mode or a four-wheel drive sport mode. It just kind of is what it is.
No, you've got the least amount of switchability or configurability of any of the cars in the test, I would say.
But it just knows what you want to do with it. If you want to drive it straight and use a traction, it'll do that. But then as soon as you start getting leery with it, it's like, right, I see what you're trying to do here.
Yeah, like
gives you a load of rear drive.
Mentioned that the software logic has that built in that it can work out what the driver's intentions are.
Exactly.
It still has it can sense when it's wet though, because it has a wet mode which relaxes everything, doesn't it? It gives you the best setup for the wet. So it knows it's using sensors.
But it's all kind of in the background, isn't it, rather than giving you the options.
Yeah. Does it sound more 911-ish than the standard Carrera? In
terms of sound, it's a weird sound, isn't it? Because there's almost like a bit of V8 in it.
It's pretty loud. I'm surprised it does pass noise regs because it's a noisy car.
I think a lot of it is inside though as well. There's some synthesization going on.
Yeah, I think it enhances certain bits of the range, doesn't it, of sound. But I think it doesn't sound too contrived.
No, it sounds good.
And it's not too kind of, I wish that wasn't quite so loud.
It's almost like a mix of GT3 and turbo because it's got loads of guts, but then it does rev out and sound really nice.
I think Porsche has said that it's as quick in theory as a 991.1 GT3.
Okay,
I think
that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. It feels every bit as fast as it's relentless the way it goes through the gears. It's
God knows what the turbo.
I know. Yeah, it felt like a turbo to me, that car already. Well, we've been in a 911 and an M4. Haven't we, fairly recently?
Yeah, on the roads in Wales, and it was rainy, which is kind of what you expect.
Yeah, but that was a base Carrera, wasn't it? Rear drive, very simple.
M4 CS, and that's in the current issue, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Test. Yeah, still on sale.
And the M4 CS, I arrived in there, and it was. You feel heroic.
What tyre was that on the Cup R's?
Yes, it was.
Because it does, when the weather's with it on those tyres, that's when you experience what M intended the CS to be. But when the weather's not with you, crikey,
it wants to swap ends all the time.
You have to warm them up like a racing car.
Isn't it?
Yeah. I saw you actually at Anglesey in the AMG and you were weaving. I was like, I'll do a bit of that actually, because it was like 6 degrees or something on the tyres at the time.
Yeah, it's on the cusp, isn't it?
Needs to switch on. But that 911 was really impressive, wasn't it?
It was.
For a rear drive car.
As Porsche tend to do, their cars seem to have more wet grip than other cars.
Yeah.
It just has this sort of extra 10-15% on top, and
the weight at the back must help in that regard, though, mustn't it?
It must, but the front is so good as well. That's the thing. You drive it, and you think, when's it going to actually let go?
Yeah.
You sort of run out of confidence before the car runs out of grip.
It's almost like being in the dry, just with slightly reduced grip, isn't it? You've still got the confidence, and you just feel your way up to it. Yeah. Whereas the BMW is more teetering on the edge, and you'd feel it slide. You'd be like, okay, that's the limit, rather than feeling it.
And there's the four-wheel drive car.
Yeah, exactly.
The Carrera's the rear drive car, which makes no sense.
How has that battle progressed then between M3 and M4 and 911 over the years?
It's just the same as it ever was. It really is. Yeah. You look back, and the M3's always had more power. Every generation, it's always had more power. There's never been as big a gap as there is now. But and the 911 does the 911 thing, as always. Yeah. It's such a rounded, engaging, competent, fine control car.
I think they've, although the 992 it's quite a big car now, isn't it? But it still feels quite compact, whereas the BMWs are really they're really big cars, and they feel big.
There's a lot of car around you.
You're never not aware of its size. It kind of hides its weight a little bit, but I think that's where they've probably Porsche stayed on its path, and BMW's have had a harder and harder job to bring it back to where they would want the cars to be, I think. I mean, they do a very good job.
They do, and in isolation, you'd be very happy with an M4 CS. It is a great car, and you can really get into it. Yeah. Just don't then step into a Carrera.
Well, that's exactly what I did, because I drove the M4 to the test, and I was like, oh, this is really fun and really responsive. It doesn't feel as heavy as it is. And I was like, the 911 might have a challenge on its hands. Then jump in the 911, like, actually there's levels here, and the 911's just got more feel and more confidence when you drive it. That's really cool. And you've had a long-term, haven't you, of the M4 and the 911? So.
Yeah, no, ridiculously lucky. I ran a M4 competition X-Drive, and then went straight from that into the previous non-hybrid 911 GTS. And basically went through exactly the same thought process you did, because I really loved that M4. And while it's kind of nominally a saloon car, it does feel a lot like a sports car in a lot of respects. And we've already talked about how great X-Drive is and how it feels rear-driven. And I thought, maybe this is all the car you kind of need driving experience-wise. And then I jumped into the 911, and I think within about 3 meters of setting off, I think it's the difference between being a car that's designed as a sports car.
Yeah, it's born a sports car, isn't it?
And it's almost not a fair comparison that way, I guess. Yeah,
because, as you say, what M do with the source material to turn it into the machine they do is amazing. But, the 911 has the advantage of, from the body in white out, it is a pure sports car.
And it's always been the way. Everything that comes up against 911 gets a battering, doesn't it?
It's the multi-tool, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is.
Lotus Evora, I think, beat it at E-Coty one year, didn't it?
Yeah.
I wasn't on that
Didn't
test.
agree with that.
That's what I always say when this is mentioned.
Yeah, but then the Audi Quattro 20 valve won car of the year, performance car one year as well.
Oh, did it? Right.
Yeah.
I wasn't on that one. I think sometimes, like the Quattro, I'm sure that was it was a car of the moment, I'm sure, when you got to drive it, and the anticipation and the execution of it. And if you have a brand new, fresh car rather than a 40-year-old heritage fleet car that's probably not as fresh as it could be, you get a slightly different read, don't you? But
So talking about how four-wheel drivers progress, we've just got out of a big hyper hatch test with four-wheel drive hot hatches. Would you say that the four-wheel drive in those cars have pushed them beyond the level of, say, the Civic Type R, which is very much a traditional front drive, two-wheel drive hatch, a bit more analogue and less advanced than the four-wheel drive stuff?
Yeah, I think you feel maybe how close to its limit the Honda is to sort of put that amount of power down and retain control, and it's quite a stiff car. In fact, it's like we went on our track car of the year last year, and you have to back the suspension off because it was really too stiff
around, isn't it?
for the track, which would suggest I know it's part of the Type R vibe, isn't it, to be like that, but I think the all-wheel drive hatches, they go about their business in a different way. They don't feel like they're trying quite so hard.
Yeah.
So personal taste, I guess, isn't it? Really?
Because there is a kind of purity to the two-wheel drive. It's almost a bit like comparing the M4 X-Drive and the 911.
Yeah.
I think when you get in a Type R, there's that extra sense of kind of...
Yeah, again, I think it's probably they've sort of fallen into the same trap that M have with their cars. Like, all the Type R stuff is amazing, but the actual car they're applying it to,
Yeah, it's quite a big car.
when you look at it now, it's not a hot
It's
hatch,
a mini
is it?
saloon,
it's a
isn't it,
four-door
almost?
saloon, isn't it,
Yeah.
really? So it sort of
Yeah.
feels slightly forced, maybe.
The Type R guys get to input to the base design.
Mhm.
That's where I think they get their edge from.
Yeah,
because they
yeah.
have influenced
Yeah.
bits that they know they're going to need later on.
Yeah.
They get built into the standard car.
Because in some ways, like the RS3 and A45, they feel like normal hatchbacks in a way. They're not got loads of feel and they don't feel super tactile, whereas you get in a Civic Type R and there are sports car vibes to it, I think. In
Yeah,
terms
the
of the way
amount
they
of
feel.
effort I went on the launch, and the I've never been to a press conference that was quite so detailed,
Right,
and the
yeah.
gains that they'd found here and there, and
Yeah.
down to what they'd given an extra like super finish polish to refine the
Right.
gear shift, and
Yeah.
it was all presented. They'd got Polyphony Digital, I think, the Gran Turismo,
Yeah.
to do all the deck for the
Oh,
slide.
right.
So it was almost like looking at
Gran
a
Turismo,
medium.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll have that
Yeah.
and this and
Yeah.
But I love the obsessive way
Yeah.
they've done the car, and you do feel it in how it steers, and like if you got in a normal Civic, it would be like a
Yeah.
totally different world, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But I think all hatches have kind of outgrown the original appeal of a hot hatch, haven't they? They're kind of not what they've evolved into almost a different species, really.
Yeah.
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 I think the last two were probably the Hyundais, weren't they? The i20 and the
Yeah.
i30N.
Yeah.
Both damn good at what they do.
Yeah.
You know, for that
Yeah.
class of car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was probably the peak.
And it was taking like a humble hatchback, the same format that you'd see like a Golf or whatever, but giving it that spark. And I think these days, like you're saying, the tech has taken them to a whole new, different game where RS3 is almost like a BMW M2 rival now, because
Yeah.
it's that sort of level of advancement and performance that you get from a pure
And they're big
sports
money
car.
as well, aren't they? They're 60, 70 grand with
yeah.
options, aren't they? So
Right, thanks guys. I think that probably covers us. And if you want to read more about the four-wheel drive test and the Manti test and the 12C, then what date is it the issue goes live?
April 16th, it'll be on the
April
shelves,
16th.
maybe with subscribers a little bit before that.
Cool. And we'll have the four-wheel drive video as well on the YouTube channel. So, yeah, look forward to that. Cheers.